It's your Wednesday bonus edition of Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand coming to you late after the Twins lose 3-2 to Houston. Game 4 of the American League Division Series. Series over, season over, ends in a big pile of strikeouts and not enough hits. Once again, similar story to Game 3, but this game was much tighter. That was a blowout, 9-1. This game, 3-2. I was there. I was roaming the crowd, kind of figuring out the energy, taking it all in, was ready to, talk to jubilant Twins fans, sending this back to a Game 5 in Houston. Pablo Lopez would have taken the hill against Justin Verlander. Instead, we will never know because all they mustered were those 3 hits. Home run by Royce Lewis in the first inning. Home run by Edouard Julien in the middle innings. That was it. That was the story of the game for the offense yet again. Kind of underscores where this team needs to go this offseason. I'll get into that in a little bit, and with Velle E, Neal III after that. But just right off the bat, the one thing that I'll note, I grabbed some audio while I was out there. I was, wanted to record just how loud people were, how into it people were. These were the 2 moments that I found were, among the loudest. Here is the first one. That was after the Julien home run in the 6th inning, cut the score to 3-2, gave fans a little bit of hope, a little bit of optimism, say, hey, they might be able to get this done. Maybe there is a little bit of life left in this offense. Twins did not get a single hit after that moment. Now, moment number 2, let's play it right now. That was Byron Buxton coming to the plate as a pinch hitter in the 8th inning. A last-minute addition to the roster for Game 4, an injury substitute for Alex Kirilloff, whose shoulder problem flared up. Buxton pinch hits for Michael A. Taylor, comes into the game, hasn't played in more than 2 months in the majors. You're thinking, well, this is kind of a desperation move. They're still down 1 at the time, but maybe he's got some magic left in that bat. Everybody's cheering, going crazy, and he pops out to first base. And after that, the last 4 hitters, 1 more that inning, the last 3 in the 9th, all of them strike out, including Max Kepler looking to end the game and end the series. That's what it was like to be at Target Field on Wednesday. It was all of this energy, all of this wanting from the crowd, a crowd of 40,000 plus that was into it, that was hanging on every single pitch, every single moment. There weren't a lot of those moments on Wednesday because there were not a lot of guys on base, not a lot of opportunities, but the game was close. It was probably the most tense, close game, certainly of this series, and it was reflective in the energy, but there was not much to cheer about all around, and that was a shame because I feel like fans were ready for it. They were ready to celebrate this team even more than they've already celebrated them. And after the fact, I saw a lot of dejected people, obviously leaving the stadium, realizing how quickly it came to an end. The opportunity they had with these games 3 and 4 at home at Target Field, win at least one. You've got a shot in Houston, win both of them. You're going on to the ALCS, and you get to be the home team. You're playing Texas with a chance to go to the World Series. Instead, their offseason begins now, an offseason where the priorities have to be this. 1, they need at least 1 more serious veteran hitter in the middle of that lineup. I don't know exactly who that is. I don't know exactly how they go out and get it, but that was exposed in these playoffs because I trusted 3, maybe 3.5 hitters as the series went on. I trusted Royce Lewis, absolutely. A guy I was not No moment was too big for him. I trusted Carlos Correa, absolutely. Guy who's gotten it done before and had a huge postseason. I trusted Edouard Julien. He had a very good debut postseason. He was in every at-bat, hitting balls hard even when he wasn't getting on base, drawing walks, hitting extra base hits. He was very much the performer that you wanted him to be. And sometimes Jorge Polanco. That was it. I didn't trust anybody else in that lineup. The bottom half of that lineup was abysmal. They struck out 5 times in a row in the second and third inning as they got to the bottom of the order. Totally sucked the life out of Target Field. They need at least one more, if not two, 1 or 2 more serious professional guys who can hit it out of the park in the middle of that lineup. Maybe they try to do that with Joey Gallo this year. That's a nice try. That's not a successful. That's not a real effort. Let's talk about a real effort. Somebody that you either trade for or you sign in the middle of that order, not just for the regular season, but for the postseason. And number 2, you need a Sonny Gray equivalent, or you need Sonny Gray to re-sign. I don't know how likely that is. I don't know how likely it is to get Sonny Gray, but a Sonny Gray equivalent. You got to have that 1-2 at the top of the rotation. As much as I like Bailey Ober, as much as I like Joe Ryan, who did fine tonight, as much as I like the potential of Chris Paddock in that rotation, I don't think you have a clear number 2 right now. You need to go get that if you are serious in 2024. Those are the roster-building things that were exposed against the very best, which is the Astros, 7 straight American League Championship Series, some of them very much while cheating, but that was very evident in the calls and the yells from fans at Target Field tonight as well. But that is the gold standard. That's the team you have to beat. They are not ready to beat them yet, but with some of those ingredients, maybe they will be able to get over that hump in future seasons.
Grand Casino would like to take a moment and salute the true football fan. The passion, the hope, the anticipation, that incomparable feeling of winning. Grand Casino would also like to take a moment to remind you that you can find all that anticipation, thrill, and winning at Grand Casino. Grand Casino, let your story begin.
Velle E, Neal III, Star Tribune columnist, joins me right now. Velle, we've done a bunch of these post-game special edition podcasts. This will be the last one of those because it's over. The Twins lose in 4 to Houston. 3-2 is your final on Wednesday night. And, you know, there's always stories within the story, but Velle, they only got 3 hits in each of the last 2 games, only got 3 runs total. Couldn't really seem to score except for if they hit it over the fence for a lot of this season and a lot of this series. It kind of comes down to that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Unfortunately, they kind of resembled the team in the first half of the season when they really were offensively challenged. Not the team that scored a 700 and what was it? Scored they averaged 6.25 runs in the month of September going into the postseason. That was a good sign. But even in the series against the Blue Jays, which they swept, I think they only hit like 230 or something like that. In those 2 games. So it wasn't like they were a juggernaut at the plate at all. The disappointing thing is that it came against a couple pitchers in Christian Javier and Jose Urquidy, who they should have hit. Urquidy, he was injured part of the season, but like the last 10 games, he had like a 5.3 ERA and like 6 of those outings was as a reliever. He was like in and out of rotation. And now they sent him out there in game 4, and he twirls that one up against the Twins. That's baffling to me. So it looked like whatever was working for them during the second half of the season, the different approach to hitters meetings, everybody taking ownership, exchanging information, figuring out ways to adjust on the fly. It seemed like there was none of that in these last 2 games that they lost. And I pointed this out in my column too. In this 2-2-1 format. When the series is tied 1-1 after 2, the team that's hosting games 3 and 4 usually win that series 67% of the time.
Yeah.
There was a way for them to get to the ALCS and the Texas Rangers, which would have been a cool series. But they fell just short, man. So it's I'm sure they're going to be wondering why they couldn't sustain offense, but as they go into the offseason. And we'll find out more in coming days of where they're headed with all this.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Some of September was they played a weak schedule. I mean, some of it was they figured stuff out in the last 2.5 months of the year, and that was we shouldn't take that away from them. But the teams they were facing, by and large, in September were not the Blue Jays and Astros caliber, and this was better pitching, this was better competition, and they didn't seem like they were quite up for it. And I feel like that, and you're right, the pitchers that got them, that was the part. It was the bottom half of the Astros rotation. Those guys should have been hittable. They fared much better against Valdez in game 2 than they did against, less accomplished guys. And I feel like the game really turned in like that second, third, and fourth inning. I think it was probably the end of the second, early third, where 5 straight guys at the bottom of the order, started with Correa, but 5 straight guys at the bottom of the order all struck out against a guy who doesn't strike out a lot of guys. And they just didn't seem like they were competitive in those at-bats. And right around that same time, Thielbar gave up that 2-run home run to Abreu. And it just felt like any momentum they had from that Lewis home run was wiped out within the first 3 innings.
Yeah, yeah, and Rocco Baldelli said that it seemed like Urquidy's stuff was playing up a notch. That was better than what they remember, better than what the scouts had saw. Looked like he had good control, good command, and guys chased a little bit. But I'm used to seeing the Twins make adjustments like that. And there's Jose Urquidy on most teams in baseball that the Twins have hit during the year. Yes. It's just amazing that this happens in October where it matters the most. So yeah, the at-bats just weren't there. I mean, like I said, one at-bat with a runner in scoring position, and there was frustration. I saw Correa beat up the dugout when he got back after lining out to Jeremy Pena. There was some of that going on. So I'm sure they're going to leave this series thinking that we didn't give them our best game, and that's what's going to probably bug them throughout the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, because if they could have won this series, they'd have had home field in the ALCS because Texas was the wild card winner. But Texas is awfully hot right now. But that was, it's an opportunity. And again, we'll see where it goes from here. The other piece of this game was how they managed the pitching staff. I don't think we can quibble a ton with it. They lift Joe Ryan after 2 innings. He'd given up the 1 run on the home run to Brantley. Looked like his stuff was okay. He was going to have probably a typical Joe Ryan game, but this wasn't the kind of game where you could afford to really mess around and even go through a second time of the order if you felt like you had better pitchers out there. And I guess the only second guess was Thielbar, but that was the inning to use him if you were going to, because he had 3 of the 4 lefties lined up. The problem was you were going to have to pitch to Abreu, and then when Valdez, who just tormented them all series, when he got the leadoff hit, it meant there was going to be someone on base for Abreu. And they did not pitch Abreu well these last 2 games. They left too many hittable pitches, too many soft pitches in hittable areas, and he made Thielbar pay for throwing a fastball to him.
Yeah, the other thing too about that lefty on lefty thing was that both Framber Valdez and Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker actually have decent numbers against left-handed pitchers for being lefty hitters.
Yeah. And
so I don't know, it was like pick your poison with picking a lefty or righty to pitch to those guys in those situations. I thought that Rocco could have let Ryan begin the second inning and then pull him at the first time of trouble, just go batter to batter. I thought he did enough, in the third inning I'm in. Yeah.
Third inning,
I think he did enough in the second inning. He did enough in the second inning to me to warrant sending him out for the third. Then I think Brock Stewart threw a scoreless inning on 12 pitches. I was like, You know what? He could have pitched the second inning.
Yeah.
But that's nitpicking because if you look at it, at one point, I believe the bullpen retired 13 consecutive batters. Chris Paddock was excellent in the middle. That bodes well for the future if they're going to put him back in the rotation because they got to replace, Sonny Gray, who's going to go shopping for a new team. But as it turned out, I mean, because I usually call it reliever roulette because you're just firing out relievers there until one of them goes haywire and your plan just goes to crap. That didn't necessarily happen today, and so that's not. Yeah, I can't complain about how it turned out because Rocco basically held him to what 2 runs over
bullpen 2 runs over 7 innings. I mean, that's you can't argue with 2 runs in 7 innings. That they did their job. Joe Ryan did his job, whatever it was asked of him. It came down to the hitting. I mean, and I think the disappointing part is not just that you get 2 runs, but that you get 3 hits. You only get one more hit. You get the Julian home run that was your only hit after the first inning. Like you said, you get 1 at bat with the runner in scoring position, and that was the second at bat of the game. Like there just weren't really any threats in this game. It was a weird game in that there just weren't a whole lot of base runners around much. It was mostly everything was done. All the damage was done with home runs in this game, and there weren't a lot of like jams that pitchers were having to work out if there wasn't a lot of pressure on those Astros pitchers.
No, there weren't. Didn't get runners on base, so they didn't have to, maybe Urquidy melts down a little bit once he gets company on the bases. It never happened for him to figure that out. And on the flip side, Christian Javier had company on the bases throughout the game and was able to make pitches to get out of jams. So it was just a weird 2 games here at the Target Field. And unfortunately, the fans were fantastic. I thought this is one of their best performances in the postseason that I've covered. They've come a long way from when people would complain of someone standing up in front of them cheering and blocking their view. They come a long way from just like booing when the other team's fans start cheering instead of just cheering over them, which is the best way to come back. It was a lot of energy in that building, and my God, the Twins bats damn near sucked it all out. And then there was a great jolt when Buxton came out of the dugout to make his pinch hitting appearance. But he showed rust there. He got a fastball that he has pounded to left field in the past, but he was late on it and popped out the third. So they fired the Buxton bullet. Yeah, I'm sorry. Because I keep thinking about my scorecard and I wrote 3. Right. But yeah, so it's a pop to first. So Rocco fired the Buxton bullet and they couldn't even get him to turn things around.
Yeah, I spent the whole game kind of roaming the stands, the stadium, watching from different vantage points, trying to see what the temperature was there. And it was, in the standing room areas, it was 3 people deep in all the spots. Everybody was like hanging on every pitch. It was not your kind of casual, June, July crowd. People were into it. They were looking for reasons to get excited. I mean, in the two biggest ones, obviously, or the 3 biggest ones, obviously, was, the Lewis home run in the first, but then the Julian home run. And then when Buxton came up, people were kind of wondering if there was some magic there. And, you wanted it to be the case if you were a Twins fan, but he was, I don't think that was, I don't necessarily think that was a second guess move because Michael A. Taylor had done nothing in that series. And I don't know if Wallner does anything for you in that spot because he's been having a hard time. So I see why you give him a shot, but he really hasn't played, he hasn't taken a major league at bat in like 2 months, right?
Yeah, August 1st, I think, was his last game. He was playing at St. Paul, but he even pointed out, well, I can't face someone with like Sonny Gray's sinker or Pablo Lopez's changeup at AAA, Right. So it's not the same. He was even saying. So, So you saw rust bits fly off his body when he swung at that pitch.
I also do see, though, fans, leaving the stadium, but maybe even more on social media later, like trying to reconcile, like, hey, this season was probably more than a lot of people could have anticipated. And they broke the postseason streak. They won a series. The Astros series was competitive, if disappointing in some regards. So I think they take a good number of positives out of it. I guess the question is, where do they go from here? Is this the start of something, or is this kind of a one-off year where everything kind of came together in a sort of weird way in a bad division?
I don't know. I mean, Pablo Lopez in his late 20s, he signed for 4 years to anchor that rotation. Duran can close games out. He's young. You saw the young guys come over. I think there's a foundation here that's still being built, which means there's still upside with this team. So it was very encouraging to see guys like Wallner and Julian, and especially Royce Lewis, come up and have the impact they did, despite the age, the years of experience that they don't have. So they got some questions. I mean, will Kepler be brought back next year? Will Franco's option be picked up? They can still contribute. Although I wanted Kepler booted in June, but he turned it around in the second half. So I think there's stuff to work with here. If you can, it'll be interesting to see what they do to replace Gray, if Gray's determined to go shopping for the best deal out there. Or they can just go in-house where they try to bring in a veteran guy who can, have an impact. I think I would like to see them go that route. First base, I think, has become a question. Do you want Kirilloff to be your long-term first baseman? Or do you want to, get someone who has experience playing there, who's a better defensive player and is more of a typical first baseman, and that he can mash a little bit? I know, everybody's wondering about Paul Goldschmidt being available from the Cardinals. He would look interesting in Twins colors next year. Would they look towards something like that? I don't know, but with Julian, Lewis, Wallner, Farmer's still a solid guy. Willie Castor was a find. Jeffers is coming into his prime years. Duran, Ober, Jax,
Ryan, Correa. Yeah, I mean they've got a lot of pieces. I agree. Yeah,
they got pieces here, so there's a path where they could be relevant for the next few years in the division.
Yeah, I think the two biggest things are you got to have Sonny Gray or a Sonny Gray level replacement. The 1-2 at the top of the rotation was such a big deal in this postseason. I know Gray didn't pitch well in the ALDS, but that was what got them to the finish line. That's what got them to win that series. I mean, they got, two starters who went basically about 11 innings combined and gave up one run in that wild card series. And the other thing is you got to have one or two more serious veteran bats. I think I tweeted the other day, I wish the 2024 Twins could sign 2019 Nelson Cruz, someone like that. Maybe that's Goldschmidt. I don't know who it is, but somebody like that who just gives you that guy right in the middle of the order that he can just flat out hit. I don't feel like they have that veteran presence right now. Maybe Correa in the postseason is that, but he wasn't that during the regular season. Who can that guy be? Maybe one or two of those guys, because I feel like the lineup is short of that consistently, and especially once you get to the playoffs.
Well, yeah, I think that, after the Rice trade, Rocco didn't really have a leadoff hitter, and he didn't have a prototypical number 3 hitter either. And I think people were masquerading those spots, and Correa and Buxton, they both got off to horrible starts. As the season, the Dodgers got swept. As the season went along,
poor Lance Lynn, by the way.
I know. As the season went along, and the guys started coming up from the minors, and Lewis got healthy, he was able to put together a consistent lineup. But it included Royce Lewis batting third or fourth, and who I don't know if that's his desired spot here. So there's going to be some interesting roster management, roster construction during the offseason in terms of getting that offense to go to the next level.
Yeah, I agree. There's a foundation there. I agree. I think it felt like a charmed year to a certain degree, even as frustrating as it was. The pitching came together in a way that I don't know if they can exactly replicate a lot of these role players they hit on. There's some off-season work to do, some questions to address, but I do feel like this is a team that, given the right trajectory, can not just get back to the playoffs, but can add the right pieces to maybe even make a little bit more noise in years to come.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. And it should be actually an entertaining offseason in that regard to see, because now, potential free agents are going to look at Minnesota as a possible destination place now. They come off a good year. They got a cornerstone guy in Correa. They got a frontline starter in Pablo Lopez. They got a legitimate closer in Duran. There's things that will be attractive to people looking to find a winning situation.
Just got to figure out what to do with Buxton. I don't know what to do about that.
Well, he talked today that he didn't want to talk much to the trainers about his health, but he said he's going to check in with them over the next week or so, and they're going to plot an off season for him. He did not rule out another surgery, but he said he'd have to talk to the trainers first and see what they're recommending.
Well, we'll see. We'll see about that. We'll see about a lot of things. One thing I do know is season's over. It was a lot of fun. It was great talking to you, Lavelle, for these post-game podcasts. Go get some rest. I'll do the same. Everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll do this again another time.
Sounds good.